This semester we are starting off by studying animals that are invertebrates. As you may know already, animals that are invertebrates do not have a backbone like humans or other animals do. The following are characteristics that distinguish invertebrates from other organisms. One really crazy fact is that about 97% of all animal species are invertebrates. Invertebrates are well protected by their outer coverings. Some have shells, some have a skeleton on the outside of their body, and some might have a spiny outer covering. All invertebrates are under the animal kingdom. They are multicellular, which means they have more than one cell, and most reproduce sexually, although some can reproduce asexually. They can move, but they cannot make their own food, and most are symmetrical, which means that one side looks the same as the other. This is a chart of all the different phylums that we will be looking at. Remember that all organisms are classified into kingdoms and then more specifically into phylums. So these are different phylums under the animal kingdom. The first phylum that you will learn about is the phylum Porifera, or sponges. If you've gone scuba diving, you might have seen a variety of different sponges. There are about 5,000 species and they all live in watery environments. They are sessile, which means that when they become adults, they attach to one place during their lifetime and they don't move from there. They do not have any tissues, organs, or organ systems, making them very simple invertebrates. They are also a very important food source for many organisms. Phylum Cnidaria, it's pronounced Cnidaria, the C is silent, is made up of jellyfish, sea anemones, and many other creatures that you might recognize. They too live in watery environments and have radial symmetry. This means that their body parts are arranged in a circle around a center point, kind of like a bicycle wheel. Some of these organisms have tentacles and stinging cells. Have you ever been stung by one of these invertebrates? It hurts pretty bad. They also reproduce sexually, with some being able to reproduce asexually. Some examples of the flatworm phylum are planarians, flukes, and tapeworms. These worms, as you can see, look pretty gross with their flattened bodies here. Most are parasites, and that means that they live off of other organisms for their nutrients. They can also reproduce asexually and sexually. Roundworms are the fourth phylum. One example is a heartworm. You might know this worm if you have a dog, because dogs have to take special medication to keep this type of worm away. These worms live in soil and animals like dogs, plants, freshwater, and saltwater. Most of them are free-living, which means that they don't depend on another organism to survive like parasites do. They reproduce sexually and they have 2 body openings. Some examples of the phylum Mollusca, or mollusks, are squid, octopus, snails, and slugs. Some of these organisms, like snails, have shells to protect them from predators. They all have soft bodies and bilateral symmetry, which means that they look the same on both sides. Most mollusks live in water, but some, like some slugs and snails, live on land. The ones that live in water have gills to breathe underwater. Segmented worms, or annelids, are the next phylum. Annelid means little rings, and you can tell from the picture why they were named this. These worms have tube-shaped bodies divided into segments. They have bilateral symmetry and something called setae, which are bristle-like structures that they use to hold onto the soil and move. So if you ever wondered why worms can move without arms and legs, it's because they have setae. Examples of these organisms are earthworms, marine worms, and leeches. Phylum Arthropoda is the biggest phylum of the invertebrates, with more than 1 million different species. Arthropoda means jointed foot, and these jointed appendages are on this spider right here, and they can include legs, antennae, claws, and pincers. These organisms have bilateral symmetry. They have segmented bodies. They have an exoskeleton, which you might have seen before. They have digestive and nervous systems and two openings. They also reproduce sexually. Examples are different kinds of insects, arachnids. Arachnids are spiders and scorpions, centipedes, millipedes, and crustaceans. And examples of crustaceans are crabs and lobsters. Those are all types of arthropods, so you can see why it has more than 1,000,000 species. The last phylum that we'll talk about is echinoderms, and these invertebrates are found in oceans all over the world. Echinos is a Greek word meaning spiny, and dermis is also from the Greek language and it means skin. These organisms have a hard endoskeleton and they also have radial symmetry. They have a mouth, stomach, and intestines. They also have something called a water vascular system that kind of makes them different from all the other phylums. And this is a network of water-filled canals with thousands of tube feet connected to it. And what these tube feet do is it allows them to move, exchange carbon dioxide and oxygen, capture food, and release waste. So that is something big that just characterizes this phylum. Examples of these organisms are sea stars, brittle stars, sea urchins, sand dollars, and sea cucumbers. Those are all echinoderms. So if you have any questions, make sure that you write them down on your notes, and we will talk more about these organisms throughout the next few weeks.